Wednesday, and those are always busy days in county government, mostly because the weekly business session happens in the Ann Basker, it's not Ambassador, in the Ann Basker Auditorium. And today's very unusually took place at 3 o'clock. They never explained why. We weren't sure if we were going to see we weren't sure if we were going to see Keith Heck or not, because at the 2 o'clock executive session, Keith Heck was not there. So
yeah, that was a little strange. I thought, especially since what was on the schedule was him becoming the chair, you would have thought that he would be there.
Well, executive session took place at 2 o'clock, and that's when they sit down with county legal counsel, and they are supposed to only talk about things that must be kept secret, and the public cannot be there, but journalists can. Now, I'm the only journalist that's ever wanted to go to those meetings, and I did for 6 months in a row, and suddenly decided, you know what, you're not media of any kind anymore. What? How did that change? Nothing was different. So this was the first time that Wally Hicks, as the new county legal counsel, and his staff of 2 met with the commissioners to talk about secret things.
Yeah, and I was kind of expecting that thing to go a little bit different when we walked in there today, and because it seemed as though Cheryl was going into explanations of, if press is here, don't reveal anything that you heard in here today or whatever.
Yeah, sorry, that was your first time, because they're required by law to say that.
Oh, I see. I get it. Okay.
So what happens in executive session is they're supposed to meet in a private session, and according to the rules of the state of Oregon, journalists can attend, but they can't report about anything that they hear. But you and I talked about, well, then why would a journalist want to be there? You recall why.
Well, I mean, it's oversight is what it is, although I totally get why journalists don't want to be oversight, because it's sort of like this is something you have to do out of the goodness of your heart on your own time, when you could be working on stories that make the paper money.
Well, this is us, buddy. I mean, because we're not doing this because of all the profit we're making from it. So we're actually the ideal people to be there. Another thing is you get better background about what the stories of the day are. They're not going to let you attend, and I wouldn't want to attend if they were talking about somebody's mental breakdown or something. I mean, that's not appropriate. But when they're talking about potential litigation, or they're talking about some things that are coming up where they're allowed by law to speak about them in secret, the temptation is, and they have succumbed to this many times according to what I hear, although I'm not supposed to hear this because they're not supposed to talk about it, many times they'll just talk about embarrassing things in there that they don't want the public to hear.
Yeah, that's kind of what I suspected is happening there, is that that's their private time to speak amongst themselves without the public supervising them. And
well, it is a little bit better than meeting in a parking lot, but it's still not according to the law. Well, now, what's your take on this? I've got a strong opinion about it, but why should we care about whether they decide to talk about all kinds of business and resolve things and be speaking from the same page before they get in front of the public? Some people say, oh, that would be a really good thing. Let them agree with each other ahead of time, and then when they come out, they can do a kind of a ceremony of, oh, well, I've thought about this, and it would make the meetings run faster. They'd always be in agreement. What's your opinion about that, sir?
Well, number one, that doesn't jive with the law. On this. I mean, the law says that they're not supposed to be colluding in secret, and I guess the executive session, they're even supposed to reveal the nature of the topics that they discuss during those meetings, and which they don't do, but. Yes, I suppose that right now It's meant to be their time to talk amongst themselves. Now, is the legal counsel supposed to be at every one of these meetings for the entire meeting during executive session?
That's not absolutely required. However, it's standard practice. I mean, it's not that they can't have one without legal counsel there, but it's usually that they're talking about things like potential litigation.
Okay.
Now, so
I have no other questions.
Oh, well, it was guessed today by me and maybe some other people that if we had a surprise in picking the new chair and vice chair for this year, for 2015, that they probably would have spoken to each other about their feelings about who's going to be chair and vice chair in executive session, if not this one, today, a previous one, because they've been talking for months about who's going to be the chair, only the chair, of this year, this coming year. And it's not going to be Cheryl Walker anymore. It's going to be Keith Heck. I don't know how Keith thinks he's going to do this, because many times he doesn't know what's happening around him. Sometimes he does. He drifts in and out of political
Well, maybe this will
consciousness.
force his interest, you know?
Well, I'd like to think so, but we did get a surprise at today's weekly business session. We had made a prediction about what's going to happen, but it was the way that they did it was surprising. You want to go through that, or you want me to lay it out?
Yeah, no, it was well, number one, we were surprised. They were not surprised at all. They clearly had discussed this before the fact, because as a face-saving measure, Simon Hare offered up to remain in the commissioner position as opposed to the vice chair and the chair, or one of those two positions. And I'm assuming that the reason why he did that is because there was perhaps talk of some sort of a censure for his behavior that would have him in that position anyway. And anyway, that's my take on it.
Or this was he was unwilling participant. This was a censure, and they're trying to put a happy face on it.
Oh, now that could be. They may well have spoken about it, and then he may well have begged for the opportunity to say it was his idea. Yeah, both of those are possible.
Here's the thing that tips the hand, because up to a certain point you could say, well, maybe we're overreacting, and their choice of the chair and the vice chair, that's going to be Keith Eck as the chair, and then Cheryl Walker moves from chair to vice chair. They just don't do it that way. I've not heard of that happening before. So, but this is the first time in a decade where they have the meeting laid out. I hope this isn't too small detail, but it's a clue about what happened today, because they'd really prefer, one, that we not ask, two, that we never find out, and three, it's none of our dang business. As a previous commissioner said, it's none of your business what we say or do as commissioners. Really? He needs to look at the law. Anyway, so they have, at the beginning of the session, they say, well, we're going to talk today about things that we're going to vote on, but first we're going to talk about them and lay them out. This is the administration part of the meeting. Then we're going to go out to the public and have you give us input, where theoretically we're supposed to say, hey, don't vote down on that one, or do this, or try not to. You mentioned one the other day where we were successful in getting them to turn around, completely around, on the 7-county intergovernmental agreement, the 7-cheese pizza, the 7-county IGA, and then they took the vote. Well, what happened today was the first item, of course, is picking the new chair. Second item is picking the new vice chair, etc. So Cheryl Walker, in her last day as the chair, she says, well, today we're going to do items in the opposite order. What?
Right.
Now, I've never seen him do even that small thing, and right away, and I turned around to you and I said, what's this about? Because there's a reason why they would go CBA. I know it sounds like minutia, but they're not going to be doing that unless there's a reason. That means then the choice of the chair is the last thing that they talk about. Well, that's okay.
And,
Go ahead.
yeah, but what's the benefit of doing that last? I don't understand what difference it would have made had they done it first or last.
That's what
What's
I
the
was
difference?
going to say. Sorry, I don't want to do all the talking. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Um, well, I can do this by myself, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. We'll
uh,
get you a little sock puppet or something to stick on
that's
your
right.
hand, and then
Yes,
that'll.
that's exactly right. You know, end up knocking myself out. Um, the thing is that there wouldn't have been any difference if they had done C first and then B and then A, A being choosing the chair. Except they did C first, which was a nothing. They did then item B, which was another nothing. And then Cheryl Walker went straight to public comment, and they hadn't talked about A yet, which was choosing the new chair.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's
wait a
correct.
minute. That means we're then commenting on things, and the top item, the item of the day, the most important issue, who's going to be the chair for the next year, and why. See, it's not just, oh, who cares who's the chair? I've got gardening to do. I understand that. But why would they choose one person over another person? And is that because of Simon Hare's, uh, what the Daily Courier calls a faux pas? No, it was lying after he'd done the drunken incident.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, wasn't Keith Heck going to be the chair anyway? I mean, isn't this sort of like, you know, who's going to run for president from your party? Well, the guy whose turn it is.
It was a double item. It was chair, despite the fact that Keith Heck was caught lying. I
Yes,
mean, we caught him
and the
red-handed.
vice chair position.
The vice chair position, because vice chair then would be almost automatically the chair next time. And so
Right.
then the question is there going to be any political backfire, any political price to pay for Simon Hare for doing these things, not just for being drunk in public, and this is like the sixth time that we've heard about it, and having the police do their official report and coming to the official conclusion that he lied to them. The police are saying this about Simon Hare. This isn't oh, well, he wasn't convicted. Yeah, but the police say that he did that. And then afterwards, saying that everything was worked out with the family and all is forgiven when it's not true. So there's a number, it's the worst part to me, almost as bad, I should say, is following up with lies, and he reiterated those lies today, so this guy hasn't learned a lesson. Is there any political fallout from this? And so there was some rumor from inside, from the three different camps of the commissioners, that this was going to happen today. So we had said, well, there's a possibility. The surprise for me was the way they decided to handle it was they didn't even discuss this till after all comments. So what could have happened instead is they discuss it, they say, here's what we want to do, and people get up, hey, wait a minute, what's this about? I love Simon
Right.
Hare, or I hate Simon Hare, or whatever, and they would talk and talk and talk about it. They didn't want any talk about it,
Right.
and so they actually effectively took it off of the agenda and only talked about it after we had sat down. That's
So does this automatically mean that come 2016 that we're automatically going to get Cheryl back as the chair?
well, no, it doesn't mean that, because depending on who runs in 2016 in November and May for the primary, and the general election in 2016, boy, this is inside politics. Who cares, right? Depending on who runs for the two commissioner positions, in 2017, it'll be maybe two new commissioners
Right.
and one previous commissioner, that previous one being Simon
Simon
Hare.
Hare.
Now, if he's the only one
Yeah.
with experience, he's going to have to be the chair. You're going to
Sure.
put a brand new person in there? I don't think so. They won't even know what this.
However, there is another year in between, and that's 2016.
That's right.
Everybody thinks 2016, that's the election year that's going to be Simon Hare automatic. No, it won't be. It'll be somebody else.
Almost certainly, then, that means that Cheryl Walker will follow Keith Heck as the chair again. Why does this make any difference? Because Cheryl Walker is the kind of person that would call the police saying there's a rule and they're breaking it, and there's no rule.
Yes.
That's why.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch that whole thing play out.
The police have made it clear they're not going to be coming for any more false alarms. Look, all three of them have filed a false police report. Simon Hare put in a false police report about his missing vehicle. Cheryl Walker talked to the police, and I guess you could call that filing a report. She told the police that people were in the Ann Basker at that twice, breaking the law as they were, and they postponed the meeting while the police came to grab up these lawbreakers. When it turns out the police left without doing anything because there wasn't any law that was being broken. She was making it up. She filed a false police report, and then Keith Heck, he assaulted me, and then got a secretary to lie on his behalf. It was lying, and then he filed a police report saying he never touched me, when yes he did. So all three are guilty of filing a false police, and then we end up with Channel 12 filing a false story.
Yeah. And is there any other shoes dropped in that story?
Yes, I talked this morning to, and then I got a call back from KDRV, Channel 12. And the lady was very nice, and I'm sure the reporter is very nice. She just should not be a reporter, in my opinion. So, okay, I'm tougher than you are about that. It affects all of us, however, okay? And I got a call back from the interim managing director, because the manager guy is out, not feeling well or something like that. And she basically said, well, you don't have to really put this story out there. Can you give us more time? And I said,
that ship's done sailed there, honey.
Yeah, that story's out there. Oh, and then it got real quiet. And I said, we feel ourselves in some competition. Like with the Courier is not going to do this story at all. Where's the competition? But we feel a little bit in competition, and so we're going to try to get the story out there as quickly as possible so people are informed. This is one of the reasons we do this show, is so that you can tune in every day live and hear what's actually happening behind the scenes. What was that about the backwards? And somebody was upset, and I don't understand why. Well, we're explaining it to you immediately.
Immediately.
Yes. This is immediate news.
So this is going to be an interesting year. It's funny that Simon has placed himself in the commissioner or the rest position, and but the funny thing is that doesn't really matter to Simon Hare, because he's always effectively, even though Cheryl was the chair, he's always seems to be the vice chair anyway.
He does it all the time.
Yes, he does most of the talking. He interjects on procedure. There's, and Keith Heck just sort of sits there like a bump on a log.
Really, this is one of the reasons I say I don't even know if he's in the meeting with us. I mean, he's physically there, but there are many times where it's really obvious, and we posted some videos that he doesn't know what's happening around him. Is he in a meeting, or is he at home in a bathtub? Many times, Keith. He just doesn't know. There's one other thing that happened about executive session today. Maybe we can end with this. Is that you and I both went to the executive session, and there's a certain point where the chair, who was Cheryl Walker, is her last day, is supposed to say, now if there's anyone that's from the regular public, we're about to go into this executive session, and only members of the media besides us are allowed, and so all people who are not members of the media must now leave. And I said, Madam Chair, BadCounty.com is media. Well, what's this? I mean, what is this? A ham sandwich? This is media. It may not be what everybody calls news media. I think it is, but it says Frontline right behind me.
Yes.
It may not be what everybody says is news media, but you look over at our website, we've got daily news shows at the top. We've got all these stories that are beating the heck out of the Courier and certainly against rotary radio. Underneath that, you've got 5 buttons which we cover the meetings that happened on the county basis in 2 counties and 3 cities. We cover them live. And then we've got hundreds and hundreds of videos. This is, well, I say it's a news media, but at the very least, it's media.
Right.
And so,
listen, there isn't any question, especially in this day and age. Pretty much anybody can be media, and you have proven that.
Hey, thanks.
Very, very effective.
No, if I can do it, then anybody can be media. I get your point. Yeah, yeah.
No. They and you. Our media, and listen, we shouldn't have to ask government if we're media. And we've discussed this before, because I mean, it says right there in the First Amendment that we have the right to freedom of the press and freedom of speech, and which just by virtue of us having the right, it means that government does not have the right to take that away from us.
So we got on tape today at that meeting, which was the purpose of going. They're always doing this. They don't seem to understand. If I ask them a question, and I'm asking them very carefully, they always, it's like, we always get them. And I said, and respectfully request that you recognize the fact that we are media. And Cheryl can't help herself. She immediately says, no, you're not media. Okay. Thank you for your consideration. We now have them on tape saying, you're not media. They wouldn't answer the question before. We're obviously media. But see, if we're not media, then we can't sit in on their sessions where they're privately discussing things in secret and keeping it from people, and almost certainly breaking the law every time they do it, because they're not noticing it correctly to the public. You may not know what they're saying, but you know they are talking about the Demick Tower or whatever. And so the interesting thing was that county legal counsel, Wally Hicks was there for the first time. And so when I say, ma'am, respectfully, we wish to sit in on this executive session because BadCounty.com is media. I didn't say news media, media. And she jumped down my throat, no, that's not true. And Wally Hicks is sitting right there. It would be interesting to know after we left if he said, now after the doors closed, now wait a second, under what criteria have you decided that 180,000 views, all this stuff and live these, and all they do is cover us, and they're not covering the Rose Show and this kind of stuff? Nothing wrong with the Rose Show. And they're doing all this stuff, and it's all about news, and it's all about you. Now, how do you say that this is not media of any kind?
I'd be very interested to see Wally Hicks' reaction, and as you put it so well, I want to believe it.